My way, or the highway, and in the driveway is a nice range. Cause I grind through the climb, I invite pain. You'll never hear me, bitch, nah, I don't complain. Just gotta flip the switch and you can go and obtain anything you want, anything you need. Your mind's got the key ingredient, it's belief. They'll deceive with the negativity, but I just slide right by that energy. Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go.
What's going on, everyone? Ryan Anderson, yawning Jackson Muniz, joining you for the Gallop Out here. It's good to be back, Jackson. You are obviously new background behind you, but it's going to be your background for the next about 3 months, as you are now up at Saratoga.
Yeah, finally up in Saratoga for the full summer this year, and super stoked for that, obviously, and excited for the racing to get started tomorrow. And it does seem like we're going to be running on Friday as well, and yeah, it's gonna be really good. All 3 cars this weekend came up really strong, so excited to get into it.
They did, yeah. I've made my way through Friday, and of course made my way through the late pick 5 on Saturday, which is what we are going to be covering, 4th of July. I'm sure it's going to be packed out there. It's going to be a hot day. Can you guys allow like swimming in the lake in the infield or something? Like, can we find a way to make that happen? Because it is going to be a warm one out there this weekend.
Yeah, I think if you hit pick 5 for like 6 figures, you should be allowed to go jump in the lake. I feel like that's a pretty good incentive, you know. Go hang on the canoe.
I couldn't agree more. Big weekend coming up. Real quick though, before we dive into the late pick 5 on Saturday, Jackson, of course, you are running contests out in New York for Naira Bets now. Go ahead and take the people through what we got going on this weekend.
Yeah, we got 5 contests this weekend, obviously. We're going to have 2 on Friday, a feeder, and then the open contest, as we call them. We're going to seed the bigger one, the $300 one, with $1,500 right out of the gate into the prize pool. The big one we're going to have this weekend is Saturday, the $300 one that day as well. That's obviously the card we're going to be talking about. And it's also the biggest card we have this weekend with the 4 graded stakes and the 2 grade ones. That one we're going to be seeding with $10,000 Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge seat to the winner of that contest, plus all the prize that comes from the prize pool contributions from all the entries we get. So that's the big one this weekend. And then Sunday as well, we're going to also have a cash one that is seated with $1,500. So I'm excited for it. I'm glad we're able to see these tournaments for our players, because obviously as someone that does play a lot of contests, I mean, anytime you see free money in the kitty, those are the ones that you're going to pay attention to and try to hop in. So hopefully we get some good participation and build some momentum for the rest of this Saratoga meet.
Absolutely. I would imagine that you're going to get a lot of participation in there. People are going to see that BCBC seat in the seated tournament and hopefully go crazy for it. On top of that, July 4th, 11:05 a.m. Eastern time, Talking Horses with Jackson Muniz and Andy Serling. Don't miss out on that one. Obviously, we gotta gas up our guy Jackson, because he's gonna kill it. Just don't sweat yourself through that suit on your way over to Saratoga in the morning. That's the biggest hurdle you got to cross. You cross that one, everything else is smooth sailing.
It's a mile. I tracked it today. It's exactly 1 mile, and I got to make sure we're staying cool with it. So, but you said though, maybe I should just Uber. Like, I don't know.
On a day like that, yeah, I think maybe an Uber would be just okay. You just got to hit one bet really, and then you may more than make up the Uber amount. So, all right, without further ado, let's get into this awesome sequence that we have for you guys. It's the late pick 5 on July 4th. Racing Festival weekend at Saratoga, and we're starting off with a Group 1 or a Grade 1 Jackson with a couple good Group 1 horses in here from overseas, but it's the Grade 1 Belmont OAKS going 1 1/8 for the 3-year-old fillies. I'm going 3-8. Jackson is going 6-8. Let's actually start with the number 8, your morning line favorite in Abashiri for Charlie Appleby and William Buick in the saddle. Jackson, what are your thoughts on this one? Obviously just lost to Precise and True Love last time out in the 1,000 Guineas.
Yeah, that's quite the company to be keeping overseas with Precise, who is a 4-time Grade 1 winner already at this stage in her career, and True Love, who's a 2-time Grade 1 winner, and she's won like 3 other Grade 6 as well. I mean, those are arguably the 2 best fillies, 3-year-old fillies in Europe that she was running right behind in her last start. This is a much easier spot than that. Obviously, this is definitely class relief. And what stands out about her too is she's not sometimes when these Europeans come over, they're going to drop out the back, they're going to make one run, and they're going to do their thing. And sometimes they can be a little pace compromised. It doesn't seem like that's going to be the case with her. I mean, at least from what we've seen in her races overseas, like she has the ability to go somewhat forward. I'm not saying she's going to be at the lead in this race, but I don't think she's going to be further back than mid-pack. And if from all those angles, if you're looking at her being 5-2, that might not be the worst bet in the world. I mean, she might actually provide some value at that price. I'm going to guess she's going to come down a little bit from that. I think she'll be sub 2-1 come post time, but if she does remain at 5-2, I may be pivoting my pick.
Yeah, 5-2, I think, on a horse like that for Appleby, which this does appear, it gives all the signs that this is kind of his A-string runner, with William Buick being aboard in all 3 at 2 different racetracks. And of course, in the 1,000 Guineas, the Group 1 over there, where I believe that was Godolphin's only runner. But either way, for Buick to take that top call in these types of races shows that kind of intention there. I ended up going towards the inside and the other runner out of the 1,000 Guineas. I might end up, again, if the value is there on the 8, I think I would take 5-2 all day. I texted Will Humphrey because if you watch the who's our, I guess we got to call him King of Royal Ascot after what he did at the Royal Ascot meeting, but he's very in touch, obviously, with all the European runners. And I asked him because out of the 1,000 Guineas, Kensington Lane was in the middle of the turf course as they went around. Whereas your favorite Abashiri was down towards the rail, but they were both prominent. They were both forward in that race. And I texted him to see if there was any sort of advantage. Your eventual winner came from towards the outside and then crashed down kind of towards the rail. He said that throughout the day, even though the track was drying out, there was no real advantage. And he'd be surprised if this horse kind of switched form or reversed form and was able to beat Abashiri when they face off this weekend. That being said, I thought the price discrepancy was a little high. Even for only being beat about a length by that rival, or I guess 2 lengths. They both
almost
still
3.
came out of the race.
But yeah, same thing.
Oh yeah, it was
almost 3, but yeah, same thing.
Almost 3, almost 2. It's you were splitting horse lengths at this point. But look, I felt like Kensington Lane could maybe get forward here. Definitely drew a little bit better. And Jackson, I don't want to talk too much about any sort of potential bias, but we have seen in the summer when the rails are down, speed is sometimes pretty favorable, especially on the inner turf. Not something I'm relying heavily on. I know it's been dry and hot up there, but something I thought that speed early on this fresh turf course might sometimes play as an advantage.
No, it's definitely something worth monitoring, especially on the inner, as you mentioned, and especially when it gets hot. And it's going to be hot. And look, we saw it last year at both the Belmont meet and when the summer meet started at Saratoga. The inside paths on the inner got really good to kick off those little meets. And then kind of the same thing a month ago when we were here, that first day or two. Seemed like the inside paths were, I don't want to say it was a bias, but it was maybe a small advantage. So just something worth keeping an eye on as we head into Friday for the rest of this weekend.
Definitely something to monitor. Next one to talk about, the number 6 Fits Right, Jackson. This is your top pick in the race. Chad Brown and Flavian Pratt. This horse is closed into 3 straight slow paces, so that's got to be a green flag for you.
Yeah, I mean, look, she's definitely getting better. There's no doubt about that. She's done nothing but improve in her last few starts. And I'm willing to admit she got an absolutely perfect trip last time. I mean, she looked like she was the winner the entire way around there. So I don't know if I want to necessarily give her credit for that performance. With that being said, she also has the ability to put herself in that position, which I think is going to serve her really well. Especially watching that race last time. Like, I think coming out of the gate, Pratt could have made the lead if he wanted to, and he chose not to. He chose to take back, and she was more than willing to oblige and get that perfect trip. And as I look at this race pace-wise, there's not really a lot of speed. There's not really a confirmed front runner. And as good as the trip as she had last time out, I think there's a good chance she gets exactly the same trip on Saturday. And if she does find herself in that pocket spot or even on the lead potentially, I think she could be pretty dangerous in here. And she'll have her chance to outkick the Appleby runner. We'll find out if she's good enough. She probably does have to improve again. But if she does at 6-1, I'm willing to find out at that price.
she's certainly in the right barn to take a step up. Third start of the form cycle in a grade 1 at Saratoga. I mean, Chad Brown, Flavien Prat, they team up. Something worth mentioning, just as we go through the card, you'll notice the absence of Irad Ortiz. He is serving a suspension from last year. So just keep in mind, there are a couple jockeys that are serving some suspensions as the meet starts from all the rules. But yeah, you know, from a pace scenario, this was a bit of a head scratcher when I landed on the €2 being as the two I thought would be the most forward. That's not often something that that we say. So that kind of lends itself to there being a pretty slow pace in this race. And I do think Pratt could, if he doesn't try and take the lead like he, you know, had the option to last time, I think maybe that shows that this horse is clearly better. Talking about the number 6, is better with a target. So maybe, yeah, again, he's certainly a big threat to sit that exact same trip. I picked this horse in third. Just, I did think he was obviously a top contender, and 6-1 is more than a fair price. Wrapping up race number. Oh yeah.
What'd you do with this 4, Faithful Departed? Because I kind of kept going back and forth with her, because obviously she kind of got crushed by these at Keeneland. Mm-hmm. But she's also clearly taken a step forward in her last 2 since then, and she might just be getting really good. Yeah,
so I'm happy you brought that up. Yeah, no, I think 6 deep in this race. If I were to play a pick 5, I'd probably have to trim that down a little bit, but I'm getting narrow elsewhere. I picked her 4th. I thought, yeah, she really seemed to have turned a corner in the last 2. She beat older 2 back, obviously romped against her own age group. I do wonder if maybe she's just coming into her own. Grant Forster's not one that sends a whole lot up to Saratoga, at least from my memory. But she is certainly deserving of a chance versus these grade 1 horses. And if she runs back to that 91, I'm pretty sure that's the best last out buyer speed figure in the field. And I don't know. I think if she runs back to that, she's obviously a big threat. Obviously, that's kind of the question, though, right?
Yeah. No, she has to run back to that, obviously. But she also just whooped your girl Tam Tam, and we saw what Tam Tam came back to do last week. So I don't know. Maybe she does have the class lines to stack up against these.
Maybe Tam Tam ran an absolute hole in the wind, or nobody else showed up. But she got a 93 for that. And this is Storm's Wake's next appearance in a race. So we haven't seen how she's going to run back out of that. But obviously Tam Tam starts to flatter the form of the grade 3 regret. Wrapping up race number 7, I'm going 3-8. Jackson going 6-8. We'll move on now to race number 8, which is the grade 2 Suburban Stakes. They're going 1.25 miles over the main track. This doesn't always come up the most competitive field, Jackson. Sometimes we see some smaller fields. This year is not like those. We have a field of 11, and I think you can make a case for probably 7, if not more of them. And you and I are going with the same top pick in the number 7 Antiquarian, different choices in second. I'm going 7-5. Jackson, you are going 7-2. So we'll go out to you first. Antiquarian coming out of the Met Mile last time out.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because it just feels like, as far as like this being a good field of an 11-horse field, feels like one of the byproducts of the Stephen Foster being so strong this year with that $2 million purse and all the heavy hitters is all the secondary contenders that usually would have shown up for that race. They wound up here, and now we have this phenomenal grade 2 with 11 horses going 1.25 miles, and you have this great race. And look at us, Ryan. We're both picking the favorite, chalking out in this spot. So we're being really creative in here. I'm with you, though. I handicapped this race before more lines came out, and I kind of thought Antiquarian is like 8-5, 9-5, maybe even 2-1. If we're going to get 3-1 on him, I want to be playing him pretty heavily in this race, as I just kind of view him as a very likely winner in here. He's kind of the only true, I don't want to say true grade 1 horse, but he is a grade 1 winner, borderline grade 1 animal on his best day, right? Obviously some things went his way in the Jockey Club Gold Cup last year. Yeah. But he also ran a 108. It wasn't like he was lucky and ran a 99 and everyone had a ton of trouble. He ran a really fast race at this distance, getting a trip that I think he's probably going to get again on Saturday. That stalking trip on the outside. Follow Forge Steele, follow Felice Fogg, let those two go at each other early on in the race. He's going to sit third, sit fourth, a few lengths off of it, and get the first run on the deeper closers. And I feel like a lot of people are kind of, not giving him credit for the Met Mile that he ran a few weeks ago, because one, that's not his game. First of all, being on the lead is not really his game. Going a 1-turn mile is not really his game. And I thought he ran perfectly fine in there, considering all that and considering who he was going against. He was going against Nysos, who's arguably the best one-turn horse in the world on dirt, going 8 or 9 furlongs. Knightsbridge, when he decides to show up, is very, very, very good as well. I thought he held his own in that spot, and now he's getting back to his game, what he wants to do, which is go that 1.25 miles. So I think if he's able to show up on Saturday, get the trip he wants, he's going to be very tough to beat.
I completely agree with everything you said. It seems like a very similar move that they made last year with this horse, where they gave him 2 starts around 1 turn. They did stretch him out to the 9 furlongs in the Blame Stakes. And then they went to the Grade 2 Suburban, where he finished second by a neck to Phileas Fogg that day. And then Jockey Club Gold Cup, which I would have to imagine is probably the goal should he run well this weekend. But I was the same way. I handicapped this originally just hiding the morning lines on DRF Formulator, but watching the Met Mile back, you're completely spot on. It's not his game to get to the front. And also I would argue the 3 horses that beat him in there would all be the morning line favorite in this race had they shown up. So he gets some class relief, which seems funny just in a Grade 2, but he does. And he ran well in there to finish 4th. And again, not playing the game that he wants to play. So I think if he stretches back out to the 10 furlongs, he could certainly be successful here.
Yeah. But the one concern I have is he does have to stretch out from 1 mile to 1.25 miles, 1 turn mile to 1.25 miles going 2 turns. That is a different ball game to try to tackle just 5 weeks later. It is a question mark. And also sometimes, like, when horses are that forward in sprints and then they go the 2 turns, like, they're much closer than they usually are. So I don't think that's what he wants to be doing in this race. If he is up close with those 2 other speedballs, that could leave him a little vulnerable late. So hopefully he's able to take back and rate just a little bit.
Yeah, you would certainly hope so. He was forward in those 2 starts to begin that 4-year-old season last year, and then was again forward going the 1.25 miles and wasn't able to beat Phileas Fogg. We'll see, and we'll move down towards the inside. The number 2 Forge Steel. Jackson, you and I were out there for Gold Cup Day at Santa Anita. I think that was one of your last days out on the West Coast. So we got to watch Forge Steel, Flavien Prat just run away and hide at 3-1 that day. You like him a little bit underneath here. You also view him as a potential win candidate.
Yeah, I went back and forth between him and Hit Show for 2nd place. And I kind of thought this race was going to be pretty formful, whether it's Antiquarian or one of these other favorites. Maybe Forge Steel is just a horse who's getting really good at the right time because he's done nothing but improve in his last 4, 5, 6 races. He's just gotten faster and faster and faster. And yes, that Gold Cup field was not nearly the quality of field that he's going to face on Saturday, but he still ran a really fast race. And it's not like they let him walk up front. He went pretty fast early too. So we'll see if he's able to replicate that performance. He's been training really well. Obviously the big problem he's going to run into is Phileas Fogg, who's drawn to his outside, who's another horse who needs a lead to be at his absolute best. There's a real chance those 2 hook up up front. And if they don't, then I still feel like Phileas Fogg is going to be the one that out breaks his horse to the front. We'll see if he's as effective sitting in 2nd.
Yeah, we'll see. Flavien Prat's going to have to work out a trip because you'd imagine Forge Steel is pretty quick out of the gate. You'd imagine he's going to go to the front, but Kendrick's going to press from the outside. It'll be interesting to see if Flavien, maybe does that move he's done a couple times where he'll take up and switch to the outside and then re-engage from the outside and maybe just get that horse a little bit of cleaner air throughout the running of the race. But Forge Steel, if he runs back or improves again, the rest of this field could be in trouble on the front end. I went with a different approach for my pick in 2nd. I went to the number 5, Tistastic. Comes in here for Steve Asmussen. Nice win last time out against Lesser for sure. But, he's run well in stakes races before. He's a Grade 2 winner when he won the Grade 2 Louisiana Derby. He, of course, ran in the Kentucky Derby. I think he's still running in there. They tried him on turf for a bit, but then last time out, they put him in the non-3 other than race at Churchill, and he really closed nicely. It gave me the impression that he's going to stretch out with no problem. I think the Son of Tisdala could be the big threat late. I think there's a chance that maybe things go a little too quick up front with Phileas Fogg and Forge Steel, and I think there's some others that maybe don't want to be as forward as those 2, but I do think there's some other speed to kind of look at in this race. And I don't know that there's a whole lot of closers I truly trust. And Tistastic's one that I think is going to really appreciate the stretch back out to the 1.25 miles. Obviously, he ran well going the 1 3/16 as a 3-year-old. And this is going to be his 3rd start of the form cycle. Comes in here with Jose Ortiz, who's having just one of the best years, or probably the best year of anybody, probably the leader for Eclipse Award for jockey right now. And I'm probably going to use this horse underneath with Antiquarian, but on my pick 5 tickets, I'm definitely going to use him as well. I'll use the 5 and the 7 in here just because I do think going the mile and a quarter, things could fall apart in that last furlong. And we talked about the weakness that Antiquarian might face with that speed now stretching out to 10 furlongs just 5 weeks after that Met Mile.
Do you like the 9 at all?
We can talk about Stars and Stripes. I did pick this horse in 3rd. This is the horse that probably scares me the most. I felt like the Ben Ali was his strongest race, and he finished that race really strong, and he seems to be getting better as the distances get longer. I don't know. I just couldn't fit him into my top 2. He could very well win. I do think he's a strong win end candidate in here, and obviously he comes in off of I don't know, we want to say like a layoff, but he comes in here off a little bit of a freshening, I guess, for Belmont, and he's definitely going to be dangerous. Junior Alvarado, it's going to be his first time aboard, which I thought was unique with this being, one of the top horses in the Mott barn right now. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, well, Size is suspended too, so maybe that's why Alvarado's picking up this mount. I don't like him in here. I just think it'd be pretty funny if Stars and Stripes wins a big stakes race on the 4th of July. Like, it'd be pretty fitting.
I do think he's going to be the name play of the day now that you bring that up. Seeing Stars and Stripes on the 4th of July, that could be, he could be the favorite off of that. I doubt it, but you never know. Wrapping up race number 8, the grade 2 Suburban. I'm going 7-5. Jackson going 7-2. Move on to the second of our 2 grade 1s that we're going to preview today. It's the grade 1 Belmont Derby. This time we're going 9 furlongs for the 3-year-olds. We got a full field here. Jackson, we're going in 4 different directions. I'm going 8-1. You are going 9-10. So we'll start with the number 9 title roll. I like this pick. I thought this was a good one. Simon Christopher doesn't send many over, but he sends horses like Choicia, who run very, very well over here. So take us through your pick here.
Yeah, we're completely different in this race. My angle was to fade the Pennine Ridge, and you obviously think it was a live race. So one of us is going to be right. I guess we'll find out come Saturday afternoon. Yeah, I'm not too creative in here. I'm going with the Euros, who actually is a decent price at 5-1. And he actually met up with Pacific Avenue back in Dubai earlier this year. They actually kind of had a pretty comparable trip. It was a fast pace. The field was kind of stretched out, and they found themselves next to each other for the last half mile of that race or so. And Title Roll never really got a whole lot of cover. He was on the outside and throughout, and Pacific Avenue was able to save a lot of ground. I thought Pacific Avenue was able to outkick that rival pretty handily in the end, and he was able to get the job done that day over Pacific Avenue and Talk of New York, who's a decent horse as well. Now, he wasn't as good two-back when he went around the straightaway, but when he got back to the turn again to grade 2 in Germany, he got back to his winning ways. He just feels like the right horse in this race for me, and he's another Euro who I don't think needs to come from dead last necessarily. I think he'll be more forward in here. He's probably going to have to be, given this pace scenario too. I think in both of these turf grade 1s, there's not like an abundance of speed. I think the pace is going to be average at best. So he's going to have to find himself in good position and hopefully work his way over from this outside post and not lose too much ground. But I do kind of think he's the best horse in this field. I'm not sure how good these American horses really are, and I want to make them prove it to me, especially if these favorites are going to be the Americans. If the favorite's going to be American, I'm going with the Euro.
I mean, that's very fair. I picked Title Roll in 3rd. I certainly respect him off that form that he's shown overseas. He comes in for a trainer who often uses U.S. jockeys. Choicia had Luis Saez, so he's not going to bring over, one of those jockeys that he uses overseas. He typically goes with the U.S. runners, which is something that I think is very sensical, really, because no one really knows the track's better than these U.S. guys that are riding it every day. So Johnny V, Hall of Famer, obviously going to take the mount on Title Roll. I would certainly use this runner in my horizontal sequences. Real quick, let's talk about Pacific Avenue, because Buick's obviously going to ride this one. This is not the normal A-string rider, or Buick is not the normal rider for this horse. And certainly when he's been double entered or Godolphin has 2 entrants in these races, Buick has gone to the other one. in a lot of those events. To me, Jackson, that just shows that this isn't the A string, like the killer kind of runner that Appleby could send out here. Like I do think Al-Bashira, I'm probably talking Pacific Avenue into the winner's circle right now, but Al-Bashira is a horse that's clearly kind of on that A line for Appleby. This doesn't appear to be that type of runner.
No, he's probably not. He's probably not one of his best horses that he has in his barn. But that being said, he may not have to be one of the best horses in the Appleby barn to beat the likes of these. Again, I just think he was pretty soundly defeated by Title Roll when they met up. And, based on the race he ran last time in the Irish Guineas, I think that kind of just flatters the form of Title Roll even more. I'm not going to be surprised if he's able to turn the tables on him, but I do think come post time, there's a good chance that Pacific Avenue is bet more than Title Roll is, just because of who these connections are.
I could certainly see that as well. All right, let's do a little talking about the Pennine Ridge. Will Walden has another one of these turf routers that appears to be getting real good. Obviously, slight reference to a horse like Rhetorical there. That two-back win for me, even more so than the Pennine Ridge. The two-back is kind of the race that I focus on with this horse. He was wide both turns. He didn't really – he was in a tough spot, and he would have had to be much the best to win, and he was much the best. I mean, he drew off and daylighted that field rather easily. I know the number didn't come back all that strong, but he's that was a week after Stark Contrast ran a 99, and Stark Contrast is probably the best 3-year-old turfer that we have here in the U.S. Going long. And I thought that an 85 at that point in time was very reasonable. Took a step forward again in the Pennine Ridge, and he's just kind of made his own trip in these last few races. I think he's really kind of matured, and that's what I like to see from these horses when they're able to make their own trip, kind of sit wherever their jockey tells them to, but also just the natural ability to get yourself in position early is just such an advantage to have. He has a win over this track, over similar course conditions. I would say from, last month when we were running here up at the Belmont Stakes Festival to now. It's going to be hot. It's going to be a drier sort of turf course, and he seemed to really flourish. And I do think he can take another step forward here. He's, in my opinion, obviously, and the morning line reflects that he's the biggest U.S. threat to beat the Euros that are coming over. I love Will Walden. He does an excellent training job, especially with these horses that are going well and in good form. So I did want to take the form of the Pennine Ridge right back, and then we can dive down to the rail here in just a second. But I want to see if you had any thoughts.
I agree with you. I thought his race two back was really, really impressive. I mean, I loved it, and that's why I bet him last time out in the Pennine Ridge. I thought he couldn't lose, and then he got this perfect trip, and he did win. It wasn't as decisive as I was kind of hoping it would be, given who he was going up against that day, given the trip he got. Now the pace was really slow, and it is more difficult to kick away from fields when the paces are that slow. Maybe that it shouldn't be holding that against him. But the waters were definitely getting deeper here, and I don't think he should be favored. I think he's more 5-1, 6-1 type, and if he's going to be that low of a price, I don't need him in here.
Yeah, hey, that's fair. I hope that the 3-1 holds. I do think Title Roll and the Appleby runner Pacific Avenue are going to take some money in here. I think obviously Aragona, one of the best, if not the best, morning line maker in the country for us. So I would anticipate him to be in that 5-2 to 7-2 range, and that probably ends around 3-1. And to me, that's a bettable price for a horse that continues to get better. And I don't know that we've seen the peak yet, and we certainly could this weekend. West End Kid certainly could make his mark as one of the top turf routers that we have here. I'll dive down to the rail. The other Pennine Ridge runner that I want to take out of there, that's number 1 Blackmail. Mark Cassie for that Belmont Stakes weekend of racing just had a phenomenal weekend. He had a handful of grade 1 wins, obviously highlighted by Nitrogen's insane performance. And we'll see her next, I believe, in the Whitney. So that's going to be obviously must watch, because if she runs back to that, she's probably going to smoke a lot of those boys that are going to show up there. I hope her and Magnitude face off. Anyway, that can be a different conversation. But Blackmail, to me, since getting up to New York, has really taken a step forward, has put together a couple of really nice races, and has had some good trips. Obviously, he is going to have to take a bigger step forward than West End Kid, because West End Kid beat him given with a softer trip, but still beat him pretty decisively. Blackmail did run on really well for second, I thought, but to your point, that was a slower race from a pace scenario perspective. But I like that this horse drew the rail. Mark Cassidy obviously thought that this horse did fine coming out of there because he ends up in a grade 1 when there would have been maybe some other opportunities. But Mark Cassidy at the Spa, he certainly knows how to get them ready for a peak race like this. So I thought Blackmail at 12-1, certainly one I would want to use on my tickets. I was 3 deep here. I was 8-1 and then the 9 title roll because that horse certainly is deserving of some big win honors. Should that horse come over well. But I thought Blackmail certainly offered some value. And if I play anything vertically, I might try and key this horse in second, third, and in some spots underneath.
So you're against Remember Mamba in this spot as well.
Yeah. We should talk about that horse, actually. Oh, I missed it, though. There we go. Number 3, Remember Mamba. Look, this horse is really talented, obviously. Coming out of the American turf, that was a really nice effort behind Stark Contrast, who daylighted won easily over this horse. To me, this horse could absolutely win a step forward. Absolutely. Something in 96, 97. It's probably going to take around that to win, I would imagine. To me, though, this horse is going to get so overbet. And I felt like this horse might be the favorite in some of those horizontals over a horse like West End Kid just for the money that these connections take. And hey, rightfully so. They won the Belmont Stakes. They won the Derby. They're going to take some money connections of Englishmen and all that. So I get it. I feel like this is the horse at a shorter price I want to try and beat in these horizontals. And I know I'm using West End Kid, but I don't want to use both of them by any means. So I thought I would try and beat this favorite or beat this second choice. What are your thoughts on Remember Mamba in here?
I agree. I think he's gotten 2 really good setups in his last 2 races. The paces just kind of fell apart in each of them, and he was beating Honey Dutch. And Honey Dutch has not really done much coming out of those races. He's kind of tailed off for him. Now, maybe he just did tail off for him, and that's all it is, but maybe Honey Dutch just isn't really all that good. And Remember Mamba is going to have to prove to me in this race, especially since I don't believe this pace is going to be nearly as hot as it was in his last 2.
Yeah, I'm happy you brought up the pace scenario. He has gotten a really good setup in each of those last 2. And I know you can look back to those first 2 starts of the career, particularly that second start where he wasn't far behind a pretty slow pace and he, powered away. I do think he was just better than those horses as a 2-year, I guess I was an early season 3-year-old at that point. But since, getting into deeper waters in those last 2, he's really got a setup. And I'm right with you. He's going to have to prove it to me, and he won't get my money to do so. I'm going 8-1. Oh, you got to talk about the 10 before we get out of here. The number 10, Touch of Fire, Juddmonte for Brad Cox and Flavian Pratt.
Yeah, I'll be quick. He just looks very similar to West End Kid before he ran the Pine Ridge, and that coming out of a race at Churchill Downs where he did get a good trip, no doubt about it, but he crushed that field, looking really good doing it. He's trending the right way. I think Timeform had that race much faster. Probably should have written that down, but let me just double check real quick.
And pull up Timeform.
Okay, it was a 107, so a little bit faster. Nothing crazy, but he is improving. He's going to find himself in good position just because of his tactical speed, and he's a better price than West End Kid is. So I'll give him a chance here.
Yeah, look, I didn't entirely count this horse out. I'm not going to use him in my horizontals. I think I'd be going too deep if I'm using a horse like West End Kid and some others. But I thought Touch of Fire certainly deserved a look. The post draw, I wish he drew a little better. I think that would maybe have me upgrade him a little bit more. Last question on him before we move on. Where do you picture him throughout the running of the race? Because 2 back, he won from well off the pace. And then last time out, he was pretty much up close to the pace, if not on top of it, and just took over at the top of the lane. But he's been a winner in both scenarios.
I think he's got to go forward here. And not maybe necessarily on the lead, but he's got to find himself in position here. His worst race, even though he won, his slowest race, I should say, was when he took back in there. And he's not out kicking these Euros or probably even Remember Mamba if he finds himself in the same spot as those horses. So he's got to get the jump on them and get some position.
I like it. Let's say what's up to Felipe. Came to support us, loyal to the soil. How you settling in New York? I'm pretty sure this guy's running New York by this point in time. Wrapping up race number 9. Wrapping up race number 9. I'm going 8-1. Jackson going 9-10. Going in a different direction here. That shows just how complex that race is. Next up, race number 10. We're going to Mile Optional Claiming Company. 4-year-olds and upward, competitive race, and our pick show it once again. I'm going 2-7. Jackson going 1-3. Jackson, we'll start with you down on the rail with Bang Frenzy. Question to you, might be a coincidence. I picked the 2. You picked the 1-3. Does the inside post have a favorable sort of angle for you when they come out of this Wilson shoot, just kind of given what we've seen, or is that just pure coincidence?
Yes. If it's a speed horse, yes. I don't think you want to be a closer on the inside necessarily, but if you're inside and you have the ability to go forward, it is an advantage, I think, after I was able to go walk it the other day, which was cool.
Nice.
So yeah, this race specifically, I think it's a coincidence, just who I have, but I do think if you have speed on the inside, it's a good thing.
All right, was just curious, and now your point on Bank Frenzy for Rudy Rod and Manny Franco.
Well, to your original point, this race is really difficult. I mean, you can kind of make a case for nearly every single horse in this field, so I just didn't want to settle for too short of a price, and maybe Bank Frenzy's form is just dirtied up enough that he can make some noise in here. He very well could be done based on his last few races, but you go 2 and 3 back. Those were races that were mostly dominated by speed. And then last time in the commentator, that was opening day, Belmont Stakes Festival. There was a huge inside bias that day, especially later on in the card, and especially that race specifically. There's a point where you can watch the head on down the backstretch and pause it, and the horses that finished out the trifecta are just all glued to the rail. And all 3 of those horses they were like 30-1, 15-1, and 18-1. So when that happens, especially when the price is like that, it's usually pretty solid evidence that there was something going on with the racetrack that day. And Bank Frenzy was always 3 wide throughout that race. He never got to the inside. He was always on the worst part of the track. He lost ground, and he was able to defeat the rest of the horses that were also compromised by it. And he was a little bit more forward, I think, than I expected him to in that race. And as we just kind of talked about, he's probably going to have to be a little bit forward in this spot to not get shuffled too far back. He's done some of his best work at Saratoga. He's done some of his best work going the 1 mile distance. So I think if you're willing to upgrade that most recent race a few points, given that he was way against the racetrack, he's got plenty of races that put him right there against the best of this field. He just got to be able to break and hang on to that inside spot.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously he's run on, wet tracks before. We're not going to get that this weekend. He's run very good on fast tracks as well when he won in the. We
could. There's like random thunderstorms here and there that may or may not come in. So it's not impossible.
Okay. It'll be interesting to see how that unfolds. But either way, for me, I gave this horse a look based on that previous form going back to last year in 2025. It felt like maybe that form has tailed off a little bit. I think you have a good point with the last outrun in the commentator where he was against that bias. So maybe that's kind of what resulted in that. But he was so consistent looking to those races prior to 3 back, and then he seemed to tail off a little bit. If he refines that form, you're going to get some good value at 8-1. So for your sake, I hope he finds it. For my sake, I hope not, because that's going to knock me out of any horizontals that I play. I ended up on the 2 Tarantino in here, a horse that is going to be the speed from the inside and I think could be loose in here. I think this horse has plenty of gas early. Tyler Gaffleon hopefully not going to take anything away. Again, drew nicely to the outside, which we kind of talked about could be favorable towards the inside here. Obviously used to be in the Peter Urton camp running at Fairgrounds this fall and winter, or winter to early spring, I should say, in the David Jacobson barn. They threw him on turf for some reason. That didn't work. And then back to the dirt where he likes to do his running. And I think 1 turn, and this is 1.5 turns, I guess, but I think 1 turn is kind of his ball game. It feels like that's where he's strongest. I never know what side of David Jacobson I'm going to be on when I pick his horses. I'm hoping this is the right side. I think you'd be in agreement. You'd want to see this horse take money if you picked him, because that typically tips the hand of this horse, being a little bit live. Obviously, I don't think this horse is going to get hammered at the windows or anything, but I would hope to see this horse live on the tote board when this race opens up, as Jackson's getting assaulted by the sun, which I don't know how you're wearing a jacket right now, but either way, Tarantino to me, I thought could get out to the lead.
AC is blasting full throttle. It's amazing.
Okay, there we go. What a time to be alive. But I do think Tarantino.
If the grid goes down, it's my fault.
Everybody blame Jackson if there's a power outage. I think Tarantino can get loose versus this field, and I think that makes him really, really dangerous in a group like this, where I think there's a lot of proven horses that are classier. But to me, this is kind of the horse that I would like up on the front end and just to play come and catch me with everybody else. So I'd love to see Tyler just open up on this field and go as fast as he can for as far as he can, because I think that's going to be to his advantage here.
I agree. He's got to go. There could be other speed in here. The horses like, I think it's Bourbon Day. It's the 4 could go. And then Post or Flood Zone is the main potential danger early on. But yeah, he's got a good chance of being the speed in here. And if you like him, you're probably feeling pretty good about 8-1.
Exactly. I would feel very good about 8-1, and I would just hope that when we hear the call of Frank Miramati, that first point of call, and when they get to the backstretch, I hope it's just Tarantino up on the lead. You picked number 3, Full Screen, in second. First off the claim for Safi Joseph, who typically has a pretty productive Saratoga meet. What do you like about this runner?
Yeah, look, I don't. Those races 2 and 3 back obviously kind of jump off the page at you with those triple-digit buyers. Last time he wasn't as good going off the layoff at Saratoga. I will say he never was clear at any point in the stretch when he was watching that replay back and watching the head-on. He just kind of just looking for room, never really had it in at any point. Also not completely convinced that he had the horse, even if that hold materialized. But it was also his first start in 6 months. He can absolutely improve off of that. Go on the Safi Joseph barn too. We can see him jump up a little bit as well. So I think he might be the best horse in this race with his best effort. But he is a horse that's going to need a lot of pace in front of him, which doesn't seem super likely, but I don't think it's impossible. So I have him underneath a little bit, but I'm probably not very interested in using him as a win candidate.
Yeah, fair enough. I do think at his best day, obviously, with that peak effort, as you mentioned, he would be a big threat to this field. Number 7, Capital Ideas, the horse that I used in second. To me, this is the horse I trusted the most from off the pace, and that's a bit of a dicey proposition considering he's didn't have much of an excuse in the Go Zapper, I guess, unless it was just Grande off to a soft lead, so maybe that's fine. But in his last 2, I really would have liked to see one of those result in a victory. I thought he'd run a lot better Derby weekend in the next Go, and he was pretty flat the entire way around there. In the Blame Stakes, he ran okay. He lost to Original Sin, who runs back in the Suburban. To me, though, this is a horse that loves Saratoga. He's 2 for 2 out of the Wilson chute, and he's drawn once towards the inside, once towards the outside. It seems like this is kind of his favorable distance. It seems like this is his kind of main track to be on. He's with his friends in this allowance condition. I don't think he's maybe that kind of graded stakes type horse. Maybe he doesn't. Well, maybe that's not fair because he ran pretty well in the Ghost Zapper. But either way, I do trust him off the pace. I think he's going to be primed and ready for this. And I like the cutback. So he's one that I'm going to use. I don't want to say defensively because he's not the favorite, but he's one I'd use with some amount of confidence in a race like this.
Tough race. I mean, it really is.
It is. The only other one I'd want to bring up that I would use, and it was a coin flip between who I was going to pick in second. This is number 8, Bramido, for Steven Schauer, who's small barn, but when he has them going right, they're going right. This is the winner of 3 straight pretty easily. This is going to be his first try going the 1-turn mile, and he drew towards the outside, which that's sometimes difficult to overcome, but he's going to come from off the pace. So maybe he saves some ground. My biggest hang up on him was I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of early pace in here, and I don't think it's going to really set up for him. But I mean, he is in razor sharp form, Jackson, and I do think if he takes another step forward, that certainly puts him in those low triple digits, which I think makes him a deep contender in a field like this.
Yeah, look, no doubt his recent form makes him really tough in here. Two things concern me. One is he was a bet scratch a few weeks ago and hasn't been seen since. 2 was his only time running out of the Wilson chute was not good. I think he had run an 85 or so. There was a race prior. Wilson chute ran like a 65 and then came right back with an 85 or something like that. So yeah, it was pretty clearly not his best effort. So that bothered me a little bit, but his recent form is pretty good, no doubt about that.
It is difficult race as the penultimate one on this card, but I am going 2-7. Jackson going 1-3. Move on to race number 11. It is a state bred maiden special weight, 3-year-olds and upwards. The fillies and the mares going a mile and a 16th over that inner turf. Picks are up on the screen. I'm going 1-3. Jackson going 6-1. Jackson, let's actually start to the outside with your morning line favorite in the number 11 Silly Season. Funny name, but not a horse, Jackson, that I wanted any part of in a field like this.
Yeah, I agree. And look, Chad Brown he's really good at moves like this, horses off the bench and Saratoga meet and Flavian Pratt and first time layers, all those things Chad Brown is very, very good at. With this horse specifically, though, I kind of want to see it, especially with the outside post, just given what that field has come back to do coming out of there. I mean, I looked at all the grass run backs, and none of them have won, and a lot of them are losing at the claiming level too. They dropped down from maiden claimers and still couldn't get the job done. So I really question the quality of the field she faced that day. She very well could have improved since then, and maybe she'll just smoke this field, because I do think this race is kind of looking for some kind of fresh face. But at a short price, I'm not going to be using this horse.
I'm not either. That was a big red flag. The run backs that you mentioned of the ones that have come back to run on turf haven't been beating some of those maiden claimers. And also the other part that was a big concern is this horse wasn't favored on debut. And for a first-time starter with Flavian Pratt on the grass in New York to not be the favorite, that just kind of shows that she was cold on the board then. I don't know that she's going to be as cold on the board in this race, but she's not going to have any of my money. And I'm going to hope that she gets hammered at the window. There's so much I think there's other promising horses to play in this race. And just, she has a lot of negatives. We haven't seen her. Where has she been? Excuse me. We haven't seen her. Where has she been? And she drew to the far outside. That's not going to be an easy trip to work out. A lot of questions, and I don't want the answers at 2-1 or less. You don't either. You're going with nobody knows for Todd Pletcher and Johnny V. Maybe you know.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
We got to hope that they don't know, because if they know, you're not going to get 10-1.
Well, I actually kind of hope she takes a little bit of money. I think it'd be an encouraging sign for her for this first-time starter. But again, it just feels like a race that's kind of looking for a new face in here. All the proven commodities just don't do a whole lot for me. They paid a lot of money for this New York bred back in 24 as a yearling. And she's got some pedigree. Obviously, Mushka, the second dam, was a grade 3 winner. The workout reports on this filly are solid enough, especially given that they're dirt workouts. And again, they paid this much money for her, so I would think she'd be able to run at least a little bit. So I'm going to take a little shot in here with nobody knows. I hope that she's got some kind of ability, because I don't think much else in this field does.
Look, that's a fair analysis. I have nothing against that. I would probably, maybe I would include this horse if I was playing a pick 5 and I could. I do think the unknown part maybe says a little bit. You mentioned there is a lot of turf breeding in that family with the number 6. Nobody knows. I ended up going with a horse with a little bit of experience in the number 1, Morning Prayer. Ran really, really well last time. I thought was too wide on that in that trip. The other pace setter completely folded coming down the lane, and Morning Prayer, as they turned for home, kind of lost a couple paths, but came out a couple paths on when they turned into the stretch, and that allowed New York Special to get through and get down on the rail. The rails were down that day, so right up against the hedge, and they fought and drew away from the rest of that field. You can see they were more than 2 lengths clear of anybody else, and that was a horse, I think it was Factory Setting is the full name, coming on for Chad Brown and Clairvich Stables. So, ran away from the rest of that field, and I like to see that sort of separation. I thought New York Special, other than being aptly named to win at Saratoga, I thought that horse in just her second career start, really finished that race off well. So I would look for Morning Prayer to kind of get forward once again. Drew much better now to the inside. Last time drew 11 of 12. Now draws post position number 1. Should be able to get inside. I think the other speed is going to come from the number 7 horse who's coming out of a state bred maiden claiming race in Probable Choice. I would anticipate that horse to be towards the front, and Morning Prayer to just be able to sit a nice pocket trip and kind of get the trip that New York Special had last time, where she got plenty of cover. She got the split coming for home, and she was able to get the job done. Third start off the bench for Tom Morley. Ricardo Santana sticking aboard. So this is one where If this horse is 7-2, I would definitely put a win bet on her. I'm curious to see how she's bet kind of in the horizontals as everything opens up, but certainly one that I like a whole lot in here. Jackson, your thoughts on the rail horses? This is the horse you picked in second.
No, I don't have a whole lot to add. I think she's the horse to beat. That last race was really good, and if she's able to run back to that effort, now she has an inside post. Like, she's going to be a handful for these.
She should be a handful. One of the last ones we'll talk about, the number 3, Lynn's Legacy, another first-time starter in here. You and I share the opinion that I think this race might be crying out for a bit of a new face. Of course, I did use the one in here who I thought ran the best out of the rest of the common runners coming out of that maiden special weight last time out. But I thought Lynn's Legacy was really interesting in here for Miguel Clement. The Dam finished second on debut in her only start over the Belmont turf course and ran well for Father Christophe Clement. And then the only sibling, National Archive, who this one is a half to, was a 3-time winner on the grass, didn't win the debut, ran well and won second time out, but obviously screams turf top and bottom for this one. Drew well in post position number 3. So I thought I'd give this one a look. You see a guy like Manny Franco take the call. They have had a lot of success, Miguel and Manny, when they team up at Saratoga over the past year, 14%, but a nice 423 ROI. So certainly one I want to give a close look to. Miguel Clement is fantastic with these first-time starters debuting, going a mile or longer. He's hitting at 30% with a nice 250 ROI. So he's very, precocious, very dangerous with his first-time starters. So I thought Lynn's Legacy is another one I'd want to use. I'd probably go primarily 1-3, and I might have to use a little bit of the 6. Nobody knows, because nobody knows how that horse is going to run.
We'll find out.
We will find out. That is a very competitive late pick 5 on July 4th at Saratoga. It's going to be fun to play. I would imagine the pick 6 is even harder. I haven't looked at race number 6 yet, but that's a 5.5 furlong turf sprint. Good luck. Without even seeing the field, good luck. We might be looking at some fun in the pick 6, maybe going into Sunday. But either way, Jackson, big weekend coming up. You're back up at the spa. I might be able to come join you next weekend. Time will tell if that's the case. But if so, we'll do obviously we'll continue the Gallop Out show, maybe live from New York next week.
Let's do it. Let's run it. You better get out here.
There we go. Before we wrap up, one final reminder. We got contests at Naira Bets coming up this weekend. Be sure to get online, get registered, nairabets.com/contests. And of course, before, as I'm just clicking so many things to change us out of here, don't forget, Talking Horses on July 4th, 11:05 Eastern Time, 8:05 Pacific. Jackson, Andy Serling, Talking Horses for the July 4th Racing Festival card. Going to be fantastic. Jackson's better pick a lot of winners in there. My bankroll is going to rely on it.
I can't do it any worse than last time. That's mathematical fact. So we'll see.
Speaking, I didn't pay attention to a single pick, whether it was a right or wrong one, but no, you killed it up there. I'm sure you'll kill it again. But thank you for joining me as usual. And to everybody watching, this has been the Gallop Out for Jackson Muniz. I'm Ryan Anderson. Take care. Good luck this weekend at Saratoga. It's good to be back. Stay cool if you can, because it is hot as shit out here. But take care, and we'll see you for the next one here on the Gallop Out.